white face gauges. They were AutoMeter, but they were the Pro Comp Ultra Lites with a white face. Unfortunately, the Pro Comp Ultra Lites are now with a silver face. I had a white face. So I bought the Phantom gauges with the intention of basically using these because they got the white face, but this bezel that's black on this one, on my original ones, they were silver. So I'm actually going to try to paint these silver. I don't know how well it's going to work, but first thing I'm going to do is basically just try to mask off the face, and then I'm going to cover up the back here. And I got an airbrush set, so what I'm going to do is basically try to airbrush it. So we'll see how it goes. Alright, I think that might do it. Hopefully when I paint this, the glass part itself doesn't end up getting any paint on it. I pushed down with the Q-tip and everything around the edges to push it down as tight as I can to the face, but we'll see how it looks. Alright, so as you could tell, that came out not too bad. Looks actually a lot closer to what I originally had. I think the original gauges I had though were kind of more of a matte finish, but this is the boost gauge, and I got the air fuel ratio gauge still in there. But just want to see, as you could tell around the bottom, the tape actually held up really well, no leaks. So now the next thing is to install it into that gauge pod and install it in the car. But unfortunately, the gauge pod, I'm gonna probably have to modify that because the dashboard is not completely flat. So I remember in the previous Evo I had to do a lot of contouring of that to get it to actually sit flush to the dashboard, but not too bad. And basically the paint that I used was just like an airbrush silver. Let me set this down in a way so it doesn't fall down. I'll show you the paint that I used is just Vallejo aluminum. My first airbrush didn't really work so well, so I got my backup airbrush, and that one did a pretty decent job. So anyways, as you can tell, it's coming along pretty well. Alright, so to make this gauge pod fit on the dash, this is basically what the original one kind of looked like. It was the same shape, you know, same, basically same profile and everything. The reason I didn't go with this one is because if you look here, this is a very fine pattern, and on my dash it's got kind of a coarse pattern. This one actually looks a lot closer to my actual dashboard, so I wanted to look as close to my stock dash as possible. But as you can see, I've had to cut a lot to get this to kind of fit the profile of the dashboard. So this isn't something you could just turn around and buy as is. It's not specifically for my car. I just basically wanted it the same way as my original one, and like I said, if you look, it's had a whole lot of areas cut out. And what I would do is I'd basically take it to the dashboard, take like a Sharpie, and just kind of draw on some of the high points where, you know, any area where it was making contact. I'd just draw a line I'll take a Dremel with a cutoff wheel and shave it down a little at a time. Just keep on going until it looked like it kind of fit pretty flush. As you can see, just by the looks of this. I had to go quite a bit up on this dash piece here. Took quite a bit off. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. The gauges look really good. I'm glad that the paint that I used ended up actually matching pretty well to what the original ones would have looked like, so pretty happy about that. The only thing that does suck, and this is something that, you know, unfortunately I've bought numerous of these gauge pods hoping to find something that actually worked, and this left gauge, the original one I had, this left gauge was kind of forward just a bit. This right one was recessed quite a bit, and I did find one that's similar to that, but unfortunately it doesn't fit this size gauges. It's actually for a larger size gauge. So this is the style of gauge pod that I had on my original Evo, where, you know, you can see like one gauge is pulled out quite a bit than the other, and it's kind of nice because when it's sitting, you know, it kind of angles more towards the driver. Unfortunately, the companies that used to make these don't make them anymore. If you look at the size of the gauges here, like you look at the size of the hole, this is the size of the hole for that size gauge. But when you look at these two next to each other, this is actually for a larger size gauge. So I can't use this one. I didn't want to use this one because, again, the texture was a little bit too fine. So basically I kind of compromised with this one. And even though it's not exactly what I had, I think I'm still pretty happy with it. Would have been nice if it had this kind of style, but you know, unfortunately I can continue searching around online and trying to find the exact ones, but at this point, I'm really starting to realize that's something that was like 15 to 20 years old. A lot of this stuff doesn't exist anymore, and unfortunately, even things like these gauges, you know, the original ones that I had were the Pro Comp Ultra Lite with the white face. They don't make those anymore, so I went with the Phantom. Phantom has black bezels, so of course that's why I painted these silver. So now I got something that looks very similar to what I had, even though it wasn't the exact model. So pretty much, if you look on eBay and you're looking for these kind of gauge pods, it might take you several of them before you find one that really fits what you want to do. Unfortunately, the ones that existed 15-20 years ago don't seem to exist anymore, and I don't think anyone would have kind of kept the original ones stashed away, you know. So I wish I would have kept the original ones that I had, but I think I kind of sold those off in a whole set like this. But anyways, next step will be to try to get those installed. Alright, so I have the gauge pod kind of sitting flush on the dash. Pretty happy with that. The air fuel ratio and boost gauges right now are not hooked up, but what I plan on doing is at some point when it warms up, of course it's like 20 something degrees out, when it warms up, I plan on wiring those all up, getting that all set up. This boost gauge, unfortunately, as you could tell, has a bolt going through the steering column, so I think I'm going to wait to put these on, you know, like wait to mount these permanently until I get a replacement top steering column piece to remove this one. Then while I install these, I think I'm also going to install the white gauge overlays. So might as well get it all done at once. So, but the good thing is, at least this one, everything seems to be mounted pretty well. Everything kind of looks pretty flush, so it should be pretty good. And the good part is, because it's kind of behind the A-pillar, the car sitting next to me won't actually be able to see it. So when I'm driving around, I won't have a lot of people who will see the air fuel ratio lights flashing and everything. So even though they are backlit, I think it'll still be pretty good. And the reflection, it's not too bad. Reflection up there is not too bad. So I wish I could have found the actual gauge pod that I originally had on the car. The one I had the left gauge forward and the right gauge kind of recessed a little bit, but no one seems to have those, at least not for this size gauge. So as it stands so far, or as of now, I think this is about the best it's going to get. Once it's all wired up and everything, hopefully it'll be even better. But good thing is, like I said, it sits pretty flush. I had to take off a lot of material just to get it to contour to the dash. So I'm actually happy that it sits at, even this good right now. So anyways, next step is probably going to be during the day. So I'll keep you updated. Subscribe, like, comment if you'd like to see more. Thank you for watching.